This meeting, please address the agenda item in our absence. White Pine Productions Chili Cook-Off has completed all forms and paid all fees for a special event liquor license. The Sheriff's Office recommends approval of the license. Please do not hesitate to contact our office if you have any questions or concerns regarding this letter, or if you need any further information. Sincerely, Sheriff Scott Handler. So I will look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Item 2, discussion for possible action, approval of minutes from the liquor board meeting held September 28, 2022.
Motion to approve?
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, we'll go to our 9:50 a.m. road commission meeting, discussion update on primary and secondary roads within White Pine County and county facilities, completed and future projects, communications of corporations and government agencies. Martin Trout, Road Superintendent, or Bill Collerwood.
Martin is on annual leave. Standard roads receiving maintenance in the time period of October 14th through November 10th is Buck Pass, Shelburne, 12 mile, North Spring Valley, Cherry Creek, and the Pope Road. Non-standards receiving maintenance would be half of Michigan, because half of that road is standard, half is non-standard, and Pinyon Pine. We did some washout. Also on Michigan, we installed a new culvert on the non-standard portion. We did some washouts in the Barrel Springs area. The Pogue Road, as we did last year, as you recall, that received some pretty heavy flooding, but the new culverts that we installed handled them well. We did have to go back and wash them out, but no washouts of that road, are very minor. We did some mowing in the Lund area and installed delineators on the Cherry Creek Highway. As you probably recall, we did the chip job on that highway and changed the railroad tracks crossings, smooth those up this summer. We are actually reestablishing a gravel pit in the North Butte Valley area. We've had some issues in those roads, just native materials, and it's a standard road. So we'll be in there this winter screening the material once we get our pit reestablished to do some major construction on those roads or improvements. Everything is ready for the snow season. We've got our salt in and mixed with our Spec B sand, and we're ready to go if it snows. When and if. We had one new employee that did not have his MSHA training done, so we've got that completed just in case the individual needs to go into any of our gravel pits. They're MSHA regulated. And then update on the minor county roads. I'm going to kind of skip this portion. I'll just go to kind of the end. Excuse me. The city owes White Pine County 111.5 hours, and that's just a 1 hour increase. So on the next page, or for the commission directives on the roads to do, we've completed Mateer Creek, North Creek, East Creek, and we've researched and surveyed 6 non-standard roads so we can go forward. Just making sure, working with Basin Engineering, that those right-of-ways as legally described are actually where they're supposed to be. Okay? And then this fall, we've got some projects going forward, but basically I'll just tell you, we're just going to continue on down the list of what the commission approved. And that last sheet is that particular list that you guys approved, or the order. And we will vary from that a little bit if it makes sense. If we're doing Michigan and there's a road right next to it that we can pick up that's a few hundred yards, we'll vary off the list and we'll just use our own discretion at whatever works best for the road department and taxpayers. Is there any questions on the roads?
Hearing none, thank you, Bill. We'll move to item 2, discussion for possible action, approval of minutes from the October 26, 2022 road commission meeting.
Motion to approve is presented.
Give a second.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that an aye, Ian?
That was an aye.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, that moves us to F, 10 a.m., CDBG public hearing number 3, public hearing discussion and public input on possible activities to be included in the application for funding under next year's fiscal year, for funding under next fiscal year, July 1st, 23 to June 30th, 24, State Community Development Block Grant, Kathy Workman, Finance Director. And Tabitha.
Hello. So this is our third and final public hearing for CDBG. It was advertised in the paper and on the website for a 2-week period as required. You guys know the 4 projects that were submitted for eligibility. They were the Kinnear Library parking lot to be redone for $200,000. We have the Baker GID Phase 2 for $690,000, and that's gonna change depending on the outcome of the currently ongoing preliminary engineering report. And then we had a slum and blight project that included possible projects such as the McGill Standard Market, the Ruth Church, the Ruth Club, and a building in Courthouse Canyon, as well as others that might be identified in the future. The price tag for that is around $350,000, and then finally the Fine Arts Building. As you can see in your backup, we received response from CDBG on these projects, and the only one that is not eligible is the Fine Arts Building, unfortunately, because it does not meet any of their priorities. Basically what this meeting is for you guys to prioritize the eligible projects and suggest any changes, and then select which ones you guys would like to apply for. And applications are due February 17th, so based on what you guys decide here, we will develop them into applications and apply in February. Also, just for the public's knowledge, we have in the backup and on the county website, we have a list of previous funding through CDBG and what this money was used for and all of that fun stuff. Another note is that we can apply for 2 applications through the county, and then we are also able to sponsor 2. So like say the GID, we are sponsoring a project for them in the previous CDBG, which is for the preliminary engineering report. So if you guys wanted to sponsor the project this year for their second phase, you are able to do that.
Okay, I'll open it up to, appears public comment on this item since it's a public hearing. Is there anyone on Zoom? Anyone in the audience in regards to CDBG? Let's go forward.
Good morning. Chris Maestas, McGill Town Council. I would ask that you would please prioritize the old Standard Market building in McGill. It has been a blight on our community for many years. And the parking lot area also really needs to be done. It's so muddy when it snows or rains, and the library ladies have to try to trench through the mud to get into the library. So I would ask if you would prioritize those projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other CDBG comments in the audience? George?
Why didn't the Centennial building qualify?
So the answer to that is that CDBG requires that it hits one of 3 things. The first being low to moderate income, meaning that it would benefit more than 52%, I believe, more than 52% of the beneficiaries need to be low to moderate income. Unfortunately, the only way that we thought that it could qualify is because Ely is not a low to moderate income area, but they do a thing where if the users, like you can survey the users, and if 52% of the users are low to moderate income, then it would qualify. But as you can see in her email, she said that this project does not qualify for that, which would be the LMIC. And then the other 2 are urgent need, which it is not an urgent need project, unfortunately. And then the final is slum and blight. So it wouldn't be any of those. So unfortunately, they did not approve it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on CDBG? Seeing none, anybody with questions?
I have a preference, and I always, number one would be Baker. Do we actually own the Standard Market? Has the O'Neill's rescinded on that, has been taken back in tax sale? Do we own that property?
Not that I know of.
And that would be a reason why we probably wouldn't look at that, or I wouldn't, I'm just speaking for myself. Because we don't actually show that we own that property, it hasn't been reversed back through the tax, given back for tax sale. But when that happens, then yeah, that can come up. But for right now, because we don't actually own the property, but Baker has always been, since they brought that up a couple of years ago, and it's a vital part of White Pine County. It doesn't, I think that utilizing the CDBG grant for infrastructure, for whatever we can, I think that should be priority. We don't spend a lot of money in our outlying areas. I mean, we spend what we can, but because we're doing this CDBG prioritizing, I think that the Baker would fly to the top of my list. The McGill Library that Chris just brought up, I got no problem with that because we actually do own that. I've been to those meetings in the wintertime. It is a mess. But parking lots are essential to citizens coming in and whatnot. But Standard Market is a question to me because we don't really own it yet. We may take it over in tax at one time, but because at this moment, we're trying to be utilizing February as our time frame, and we don't own it, I think we should move up other projects ahead of that. Not that I'm against the Standard Market deal, don't get me wrong, but we own the other projects, so let's try to do the right thing and take care of those that we actually can do. And until we own that property, I don't think Standard Market can be done. But I think the parking lot can be done. I think my first priority always would be Baker. That's my opinion.
So just to clarify on the Slum and Blight project, all of the properties that I listed can all go under one project. And we have until the project closes to get that done. So if you were to want to go forward with the Slum and Blight, and that's the one that's not in our name, but if we were to acquire it before, like say next June, the award would be June 30th, or excuse me, yes, July 1st. So if we had it in our name by June 30th, or even after that, we would be able to do this project as long as CDBG approved that specific property. Because we have to go through and, even though we get the Slum and Blight award, we have to get each property approved through CDBG before we can actually do anything with it. So you guys can remedy, any or all of these properties under the Slum and Blight, or you could take them out, and still do a portion of the properties listed, if that makes sense.
Tabitha, have we put a list together under that Slum and Blight? I know
Yes.
there's some, but I couldn't, would you refresh my memory and also for the public to hear it, please?
So we have the Ruth Church,
Yeah.
and then we have the Ruth Club, which, there's people that feel that we need to tear that down or remedy it in some way, and then there's others that don't. There's a building in Courthouse Canyon, I guess, that Burton has brought to my attention. There's the McGill Standard Market, if it does go back into our name. And then I know that there's some other properties in McGill, and it's not defined just to this list. If we find other county properties that you guys believe are blighted, we can always try to remedy those in some way, but it does have to be a county property.
Right, so this is a discussion only item, so, if no one else has any comments, we will move on.
I do need a prioritization of the projects so that when I go to apply for them, we have your first priority, second priority, and third priority.
Can we really do that, James?
I don't think so, it's not
Yeah.
agendized.
I mean, you guys can talk about, like Richard did, what your
Yeah.
priorities are, but there can't be like a vote on the priority
We have to
list.
do that in December then,
Okay.
the actual vote.
Thank you guys.
I just, the mayor has thoughts, get those to Tabitha beforehand and then we'll vote on that.
December?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna squeeze in one for our special use permit, hearing. I see him there in the audience, and that is under, Mike Weevil, discussion for possible action to set county water lease rates and other special terms for agriculture water lease applicant Corey Camp. Corey, you wanna come forward? And I'll let Mike, go with this one. Yep.
How are you doing?
Good.
So in your backup material, we've included an example of the lease that we had with the mine. And we also have the request that's pending from applicant Jake Brunson. The reason why that's relevant for Mr. Kemp's lease is because we can't be doing one-off agreements lightly. It would not be the best practice. We should have some kind of standard terms, so whatever we decide to do with Mr. Kemp, we should be prepared to do in perpetuity. There's some time restraints on getting this done with Mr. Kemp, because the state water engineer has preliminarily approved the change application, and will allow this lease to go forward, but they're requiring that $1,500 be paid within 60 days of their notice, which was about a month ago.
That was dated October 7th,
Yep.
so we have till December 7th.
Yeah, and they can get pretty persnickety if you don't pay it in time. They have full right to withdraw and
Withdraw, yeah, they
do
withdraw.
it. They'll likely give an extension of time for that, but, we can't make that guarantee, that's in the state engineer. So, we need to discuss, primarily, I wanted the Natural Resource Advisory Committee to make some recommendations about what they would like to see in our water leases going forward, being that they're trying to be stewards of our natural resources and give us some expert opinions. So, I don't know if Cody Aldridge is on the line, if he wants to be heard real quick about that, but they haven't yet been able to make any standard recommendations to the county. But a couple of things we need to consider, at least for today, so that James's office can put together the lease, is what the per acre feet value is gonna be, and also the length of the lease. I think we've already identified how much in the water permit.
Right.
We're looking for 400 acre feet. Yeah,
That's what I applied for, yes.
annually, right, 400 acre
Yes.
annually. How many pivots is that about to run?
That'll run one.
One pivot, right? Yeah. So, and, it has to be a long enough lease so that it makes the return of investment in putting that pivot and investing in all that out there and drilling the well and all that.
Right, I'm close to $250,000 on infrastructure.
Mhm.
That's not counting the groundwork, which you've got to calculate about another $135 an acre,
Mhm.
so.
To just give some public information, the county holds originally around 25,000 acre feet annually in applications that we have been granted, I think it was 1978, to put to use for economic development. Okay, and year after year, we tell the state, we promise we're gonna put this to use next year. We've been doing that for 40-something years. And so we do wanna look for opportunities to put some of this water to work, so that we don't lose those rights to the county. It was suggested that we do, I don't remember who made the suggestion, that we hold these out for our agricultural community, because it's a way of life here, even though it's not per se economic development. We have infrastructure going in place, and we have families being supported by it, so there is some measure of economic development, certainly not bringing in significant income to the county that we need. It's more of, we have these water rights, we should be using them. There was some question about agricultural use of these water rights within the North Steptoe Valley in a certain area between here and McGill. We didn't know if the state engineer would approve those rights, and they did.
Right.
They did, which is good. So, when you talk about the whole picture on paper, this is one of the things the Natural Resource Advisory Committee talks about. On paper, we have this giant application pool of 25,000 acre feet of So leasing some to this applicant and then the next one or whatever at 400 increments here and there is not going to significantly decrease the actual right and hold on paper. There is a concern, however, whether the water in the ground is, if that 25 acre feet, if the valley can actually yield that, you know. And so that's where other applicants, other industrial applicants who have applied for similar annual yield have been asked to do water studies and mitigation measures and compare those kind of things. And so we want to be consistent as well. We're not going to require that of our one-off rancher who's before us asking for small things. So those are some of the complicated issues to decide. And unfortunately, you know, we've been sitting on this for over a year now. This happened when I was not employed by the county. That came before the board. We decided we wanted to move forward with this. We already took that action. And so Mr. Kemp has already invested some money in getting this going. And of course, he's going to be responsible for paying the application fee. So we do want to get some terms together for the DA's office to put in that lease. The big ones are how much and how long, essentially. The rest we can fill in.
Yeah.
And you figure that this really wouldn't be a big hindrance on our county water rights, right? But
If the water's there, no, right?
right, okay.
Like, because, so if we find out that because everyone is requiring a different applicant, an industrial applicant, to do a bunch of studies. And they find that while we do have 25,000 acre feet that we could apply to the state engineer for, and the studies reveal that we actually only have 2,000 acre feet of water that we can appropriate, then 400 acre feet annual that we're giving to Mr. Kemp has a much bigger impact. But so we don't have those answers. We don't know.
But that has already been decided. You guys have already approved
We approved it forward.
this application and use, so we just need to know what the terms of the lease are gonna be.
So if you look at the mines lease, it was $7 per acre feet annually. But they were gonna appropriate up to 25,000 acre feet potentially if they needed it but it was a small, short term, up to 3 years. And so that's why it was, you know, the price and the volume made sense for the county. It was more of helping them de-water so they can keep operations going, put some money into natural resources so we can pay for the water attorney to fight SNWA. Remember all these discussions?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we came up with that number. I don't know that $7 an acre foot is appropriate. That would, whatever 7 times 400 is, I'm a lawyer, right?
2,800.
2,800, right? Annually would be the fee that Mr. Kemp, if we went with the $7 per acre foot a year, would be responsible for paying over the life of the lease. With and you can see in Brunson's material, he prepared a schedule, and there's not much increase or interest in price on that as well. So I would like to at least have the board discuss a range with Mr. Kemp today, and so that we can get it on paper and try to get something together for approval in the December meeting.
Another part I want to add on that was, we need to make sure we use our water rights for beneficial use, because that term continues to come up. And as long as we're using beneficial use, which your project would be, or any other local rancher around, that secures water rights within White Pine County's boundaries, so that because there's I don't know if it's an actual statement, that after 5 years, if our water's not used for beneficial use, the state water engineer can step in and say, hey, see you later.
And I have seen that, there's a piece of property around us, so that did happen.
So
This preserves our seat at the table.
right, so that's why I'm in favor of his project and what we voted on, because I want to utilize as much beneficial use, be it the power project, so we show our water usage as being beneficial, and the state can't come in and say we're not utilizing it.
Our water rights are currently in jeopardy because we have not been using them.
There you go.
However, you give the 400 acre feet a year to Mr. Kemp, and you put a 30-year lease on there, they're not our water rights, they're his water rights for those 30 years. And at the end of the 30 years, the best we can get back are 400 acre feet. So if there were a development in the wings that we were supposed to be thinking about prioritizing for economic development purposes, we'd have to tell them, well, come back in 30 years, kind of thing. And then you'll get 400 acre feet. I hope that's enough. And so we want to make sure that there's enough for our applicants when they come in, but we also want to it may be more prudent for the counties stewardship of these water rights to do smaller lease terms, and then we can renew them at the time they come up for renewal and go, what do we have pending right now? Oh, so-and-so wants to do a big, something at the industrial park. Okay, well, let's renegotiate with Mr. Kemp and see if he can, if he's using all 400 acre feet or how, that kind of thing, every 10 years or so. So that's something that the board should consider. And that's risky for Mr. Kemp, because as he said, he's putting $250,000 into the pivot, and he has to make sure he gets that out of there, because he can't have a $250,000 pivot out there and not have water rights in 10 years. So, those are the complexities of leasing our water rights.
So Corey, what would be the amount of time you would generally like
Well,
to see?
I was thinking a 10-year minimum. I could make that work in 10 years.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to renegotiate after 10 years. That's not a problem for me, so.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay,
Yeah.
if that works
As
for
long as
Corey,
you're
I'll-
comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with that. I look at these water rights, he's been sitting here, how many years have we had our name on these? 30, 35, 40 years?
45 years.
45 years, yeah. And you go hunting for the people that put together successful projects using these water rights, you got an empty sack.
No,
Yeah. You know, so,
he's gone through the land process, the land disposal.
That's what I mean.
Process and everything.
that's what I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
full support of this, because as far as hanging on to 25,000 acre feet for the big dream project, come on, anything comes down the pipe.
I'd look at, what were you thinking for price per acre foot?
Well, I know
The
what.
range, the
Yeah,
range.
I'm, top end would be $20. I mean, that'd be the high end, and that'd have to be down the road.
Yeah, and I was thinking more closer to like 10 or 12 bucks an acre foot, and we're just making things up here. But
Yeah.
at least makes it
Right.
economical, and we can have
But-
some kind of increase over 10 years so that he can offset the price for his.
Yeah.
Remember, there's some agricultural abatements for taxes, so it's still, this isn't like this money's coming back to the county. It's whatever we agree to is probably gonna be what we get out of it as a county that goes back to the taxpayer for other projects. So I would suggest we start around that neighborhood, and we can do a little more research across the state. But if you say not to exceed $18 an acre foot over the life of the lease, we can at least get something to the DA's office he can negotiate with Mr. Kemp and bring back for approval.
I'd like to see it start at no more than 10. And
Yeah.
personally, I wouldn't like to see it exceed, yeah, 18, I was thinking 15. But I think it's important that having local ranchers and farmers brings a lot more to the community than just economic development. I mean, that's part of our culture. And I think it's really important that we support these. And at the end of the day on this, we're not talking huge money. If it's a difference of $15 or $18, we're talking $1,200.
You're right, I think the best way to look at this is as a placeholder on our water rights. So that-
Placeholder on our water rights, I don't care.
I wish you were asking for a little bit more, actually, so.
Yeah.
I can, but.
So how about this? Let's start at 10, and then we'll just have a 50 cents a year increase.
Yeah.
Every
Not
year.
to-
With a
Back in.
$15
Not to,
cap.
whatever that
What?
works out, not to exceed.
Yeah, if we
Within
do a
the
10 year,
10
10-year lease, does that
Yeah,
works for you?
that sounds great to me.
All right, that's what I would propose with
We're gonna have to do that similarly with other applicants. Like,
Yes.
unless we have some other reason that we can justify something else.
We'll just make this for agriculture purposes.
Yeah,
This is
that'd
something-
have to be across the board for anybody that's applied for the city.
Does that work okay for you, as all that?
You bet, yeah,
Okay,
that sounds great.
All right, I'll look for a motion then to approve the DA's office to put together a lease with Corey for 10 years, starting at $10 and going up 50 cents an acre foot a year. That's $10 an acre foot, increasing 50 cents an acre foot per year over that 10-year lease.
Move to approve.
I'll second. All right,
Great.
all those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Corey.
so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Corey.
it.
We'll take a 5-minute break and then get
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chatchis reporting.